everybody. It's been a while. My name is Rob Howard. I'm CEO of Zodiac Solutions, LLC. I do consulting in the energy space, and I'm here today with Rod Matthews, who is the CEO of Brevian Energy, and Brevian Energy focuses on microgrid solutions. What we wanted to do today was, first of all, congratulations to all of you who made it out to the DNC. And a big shout out to Chicago. I've had some of my best travel times in Chicago. I tend to gain a lot of weight when I go to Chicago. There's a food issue there because it's all so good. But what we wanted to do today was we heard that people are really trying to figure out what to do with what is going on in this quote unquote green energy economy. Well, I think we ought to take a step back. And let's look at the need, particularly around utilities and electricity, because as we all know, veterans, there are people who have gone through some sort of training, many of whom have learned how to go into a community, set up a fully functional, operational city, including the power associated with that city. And so, Rod, since you are actually in the microgrid area, how about you give us some background as to what microgrids actually are? It sounds like one of those big techie words, and can you break it down for us a little bit?
Well, I will do my absolute best, Rob. I really appreciate it. Again, as Rob mentioned, my name is Rod Matthews. I am the president and CEO of Brevian Energy, and we are a microgrid solution provider. And quite simply, microgrid is a term that's pretty much utilized to say exactly what it is. Micro, meaning small, and the grid is a small version of the grid, meaning you have all of these controllable loads and generation assets that are all controlled as one entity. For instance, you can pair solar panels, match those with batteries and with control systems, and you can have a system that can generate power 24 hours a day, independent of the grid. And it can be connected to the grid. Semantically, being connected to the grid makes it a microgrid. If it wasn't connected to the grid at all, semantically, it's called a mini grid. So microgrid, mini grid, hope that clears up a little bit for you.
Yeah, I just wanted people to get a feeling for what we're talking about, because one of the things that's happening right now is you see there are a number of, and I'll go straight to it, funding sources that have come out through the Biden administration. They passed the CHIPS Act. They passed the Inflation Reduction Act. They passed the Infrastructure Act. Am I missing any of the major pieces of legislation that actually could tie into?
No, I think really, though, the two biggest are that infrastructure bill that was passed and the Inflation Reduction Act, with the provisions that were put in there, all of the tax incentives that are in there that are designed to help stimulate our adaptation of these renewable energy technologies.
So we're going from an old system, which was we have a power plant, we have poles and wires, and then we have businesses and residents using the electricity. So now it looks like we're getting into a distributed energy environment, and that's what a lot of this funding is about. So I wanted to just take a moment to look at two sets of veterans. One is the group of veterans that want to actually go into business. The other one are those veterans that want to, I just got out. I need to find a job. I'm thinking that this is a growth industry. And so what I just wanted to make sure we lay out some opportunities for veterans. Number one, the industry is changing. The need for electricity. Do you have any numbers on just how much more electricity we're going to need than we have right now? And two, what are those areas that are going to be using up all our electricity? Because I know one of them are data centers. So how much more are we going to need? And what's drawing all the electricity?
Well, right now, a lot of states and individual municipalities have set mandates. By like 2035, they want to have so much of the power that they consume be renewable. Most of them start at 75%, and a lot of them have lofty goals of going 100% renewable power. So you're going to see that over the next 15 years. We're going to need a lot of electrification. And as you mentioned, with data centers, with the rise of AI and more compute power being required, we're going to see a huge need for more electricity. Obviously, there are mandates for vehicles to be by 2035 here in California. No vehicle can be sold that's gas powered after 2035. So that means they're going to have
Wow.
electric vehicles, and there's going to be a huge demand for electrification for that. So our entire electric grid will be enhanced and almost remade over the next 15 years, which opens up a complete industry. They're going to need a lot of EV technicians. They're going to need a lot of battery installers, solar installers, just renewable energy technicians in general, people who work in warehouses producing these things. So the whole industry is opening up. And this is the new industrial revolution, is power.
So if this is the new industrial revolution, and I'm trying to figure out, we have a saying, get in where you fit in. And so, but I really don't have a technical background. Are there jobs that are available for people like me? I could be a marketing person, or I could be an administrative person. What's in it, or where can I find space in this new industrial revolution?
I mean, well, just like anything else, companies who are in these renewable energy technologies, they're going to need accountants. They're going to need, customer service people. They're going to need all of the things that help business run. So that is their particular industry. But they're going to need people who pay the bills for them. People who they're going to need attorneys. They're going to need all kinds of stuff. People who maintain the facilities. All kinds of things that. So not just in the renewable energy technologies in general, but all of the things that support a company who's doing that. So those jobs are going to be open as well.
So veterans need to know that whatever their skill set, this new industry is probably providing jobs that you can find your way. So folks, really start looking at what's available and how you can get engaged. The other thing is, now that we know that these opportunities are available, what I want to talk a little bit about now is, how do we change an area? Because for me, I have a heart for, let's say, inner city development. How, if I've got in the inner cities, oftentimes when we say inner cities, we talk about more urban areas. I've got a lot of buildings. As a microgrid solution provider, how can you, one, help the business owner, and two, what can you do for that community?
I know,
are there ways? Yeah, are there ways that this new energy revolution can assist a community from a resource and monetary perspective?
There are several different ways. I'm glad you asked that question, because I really have a heart for that. That's a passion of mine. Well, first of all, with just the individual business owners, we have a way to implement a microgrid to make their power more affordable, make it more resilient, because they get standby power. And for us, we produce that power in a more sustainable way to try to combat climate change. For communities, a lot of times, you live in an apartment or you live in a rental property, you don't really own the place. And a lot of times you don't even have the financial wherewithal to deploy some of these technologies. You don't have the, $20,000 to go deploy batteries and solar at your house or in your apartment. You don't even have the rights to do that. So we are getting together and deploying these for entire communities, so we can, through economies of scale, lower that cost to deploy to them. And also, we've implemented a means of community ownership. So when we develop these projects, we work with a company that comes in and helps create what's called a special purpose vehicle that allows the people, the citizens in the community, for as little as $100 to be able to invest into their electric company. You know, how often do they get a chance to do that? You know, in the whatever investor-owned utility that they're currently being billed with, they don't really have that many opportunities to say, here's some money, I want to invest in you. But the community can actually own these projects, and the money that's being generated from these can go back into community projects.
So you're telling me not only can, because first of all, for those who don't know, my background, I spent over 30 years in working for a regulated utility. So I understand how utilities work. They're usually investor owned, and the shareholders are the primary focus. And so as a veteran, as a Navy veteran, I learned a lot about the skills that actually got me into that career. You're telling me that we can now literally create our own mini utility.
That's right.
Basically.
We'll be a part of one.
And be a part of one and cover our community. And and what would you call those? Because we want to give people terms that they can start asking their city councils and their mayors and their aldermen. These are questions you might want to start asking about. Of course, what you ought to do, again, is American Heroes Group, connect with them, make sure you send them their number and say, hey, I want to talk to those guys about that microgrid thing or that electric company or how to empower my community. And we'd be glad to meet with folks, talk to them. I'm based in Southern California. Rod's based in Southern California. But I will tell you, the beautiful thing about electrons, they flow anywhere, and we can help based on the local, what the grid needs locally, because I always tell people, everyone talks about solar. But here's the thing. I actually don't get a chance to watch my movies during the day when I have solar. I like to watch a movie or watch a ball game at night when the sun's not shining. And so these microgrids are giving us a way to actually provide power and be able to support our communities from an electrical standpoint 24/7. So when we talk about being able to help the community, what would we call those projects that are actually available for the community to own parts of?
They call them community solar or community microgrids. Those are the actual terms for them.
And what's funny about it, not funny, but ironic, is that the Department of Energy and the federal government, as a part of these grants, there are billions of dollars available for community solar. So what do veterans need to do? They need to contact, again, their elected officials and ask them, because everyone has a congressman. That's kind of how our government works. And your local congressman say, hey, I want to know more about this. And they usually have staff. Now, granted, that staff oftentimes is busy, but you're a constituent and you want to find out about that. If you started a business, small businesses, check in with your small business development center. I know out here in California, one of the things you want to do is to be able to set yourself up to build capacity. And the way to do that are taking these classes and educating yourself on what you need to do. And at the same time, they may be able to help you on how to access those grants. But
I wanted to point out, I wanted to take a moment to point out that, you know, we've actually been on the show prior to talking about these training opportunities. But as veterans, there are several programs that are out there that provides free training for these renewable energy technologies. We previously left the list. You can contact us. We can provide that information for you. But there are several programs out there that are free of charge to veterans, and we encourage each and every one of you to take advantage of those.
So let me get this straight. So we've got federal funding coming down the pipeline. Business owners should be able to access it. You've got a way to create local electricity, and we have free training that's available, and particularly for veterans. So what's the missing part? If we have all these resources, how do we connect veterans with the resources? Because for me, it's like, how do we do that and make sure that veterans get moving, because I know, number one, you got to really use your military prowess. We didn't just wait to get a job done in the military. When the order came, you snap to it. So if I'm in, let's say, Chicago, and I want to start looking at this maybe as a worker, what recommendations would you have for people who are thinking about getting into this area, this field?
First, I would contact us here. We can provide you a list of those training resources that are available in your area. And you asked what was missing. To me, the things that's missing is just the intentionality of making it happen, right? All of the resources are there. We just have to be intentional of, acting on them, taking advantage of them, and putting these things to work.
Okay, so we've talked about that part of it. I want to get into some of the more technical pieces, maybe not more technical. One of the issues we've had out in California, as we've been moving toward using battery storage to align with your solar, one of the issues we have is that we've been having fires in the batteries. And so sometimes it's the equipment and not necessarily the battery, but the general public doesn't care. There was a fire. It took them days to put it out. So what is happening with the technology that will change that reality so that people don't have to fear the batteries for the microgrids? What does Brevian Energy? Yeah, what does Brevian Energy do to address that situation?
Well, the technology in batteries is changing, pretty rapidly. Not only is it making the cost go down, is reducing the cost of the batteries, but it's also making them much more safe than they used to be, say, 5 years ago. Right now, you're seeing where the batteries used to be the primary chemical technology was lithium ion. Now that it's changed to lithium ferrous phosphate that operates at room temperatures and doesn't pose the fire hazard as you see. And then you see things now, people are rolling things out like flywheel batteries and things of that nature that are a lot more safe. So everything is evolving, and it's, with everything, it's becoming less expensive and much more safe as they deploy new technologies.
Well, so I'm a firm believer that energy, no matter what, everybody's talking about AI, everybody's talking about data centers. We got all these conversations about all these new things that are coming up. I'm a firm believer that none of it happens without safe, reliable generation of energy. So I wanted to then, as we talked about, we've got batteries coming in. So what do we do though if I need more power than, what are some of the other options if you've got a microgrid in a smaller situation, apartment buildings and things like that. So I've got solar, I've got some battery. Not everywhere is solar going to work. What are some of the other green energy technologies that Brevian Energy has the opportunity to employ on a project?
We're in some areas where we have higher power requirements and not as much space to deploy large solar fields or solar farms. There are some baseload technologies that we can employ using like hydrogen fuel cells, using linear generators.
I'll slow you down. What is base load? What do you mean by base load?
Okay, so I'm sorry. So when we talk about base load power, that's power that's available 24/7 without interruption. Whereas solar and battery, there is a sporadic nature. You have to depend on the sun shining in order to produce the solar. You have to have enough charge in the battery for it to discharge. So there could be interruptions in that power. But with things like base load power, that's things like generators, things of that nature, where it's going 24/7 as long as it has that power stock.
Okay.
So we deploy things like hydrogen fuel cells and linear generators to provide that base load power, which is much more expensive and is much more reliable than just the intermittent power of solar, being that it works just fine. But in mission critical situations where you cannot have anything go down, that base load power generation is critical.
So I know places like hospitals, emergency
Mhm.
operation centers, um,
Data centers,
a lot, data centers, places that can't go down. So,
first
so
responders, and
you're
things of that nature.
so what are they using? And not necessarily what are they using now, but what do you see them doing in 5, 7, 10 years in order to make the transition?
We're seeing things like flow batteries. We're seeing gravity storage. Again, I mentioned even flywheel technology, some of the hydrogen that's going to be deployed with long-term storage. So you're seeing many different approaches to tackle this problem. Um, you're going to see a lot of unification probably in around 3 years around these gel and flow batteries. You're going to be seeing a lot more deployment of those. So just stand
So,
by.
so,
Technology is always changing.
but yeah, I want to just give people an idea about these technologies, what's available. But to recap, I want to let everyone know, um, use the AI on your computer, ask Uncle Google about funding for green energy projects. Use that AI, use Uncle Google, and ask about what training is available for veterans. Contact us here at American Heroes Group, Brevian Energy, Zodiac Solutions, and we'll give you a list of trainings that are available. There's also that's national. There's going to be things that are happening locally that will allow you to get the training locally, and so you really need to dig down for that and recognize that as you go into either business or you're just trying to be an employee, the clean energy revolution is coming, and there are even things that honestly we know we're working on because we try to stay on the cutting edge that we haven't had a chance to really talk about here, but it's coming. And so I hear the music, and I think they may be letting us know that they're getting ready to go to the floor. But again, I wanna say thank you everyone for being here. And if we can talk more about it, we will. But I want to let you know that the opportunities are available. Veterans don't stand on questions, seek answers. This innovation is here. It's going to only get bigger. This is our time for the industrial revolution, and it is in renewables, clean energy power. You want to last note, Rod?
Yeah, for me, it's like we were as veterans, we signed up to defend our country, to make every effort we can to make America better. This is a whole nother, I wouldn't necessarily say war, but it's another battle, right? So we're going to need people we can rely on to make this energy transition, and veterans are going to be the ones that lead the way. So I implore all of you to take advantage of the training, and I look forward to having you out there as fellow climate warriors.